Our mindset is one of our most powerful tools. We have over 60,000 thoughts a day. Most of them, for the average person, are negative, and you're not average. Listen to this episode to hear how you can create a supportive, positive mindset, how to add these things into your day to make sure that you are not only showing up for yourself, but showing up for your positive mind. It's ready to go from average to powerful mindset. Welcome to another episode of Happy, Healthy, and Skeptical. We are your hosts, Jennifer Hobson and Christy Palermo. Once again, we are starting with a question, and it's me and Christy today, so you're going to get a whole lot of our opinions, which I know you always enjoy. And the questions we're going to start with today, Christy, are talking about mindset. So the first two, it's with me, I like to come up with a two-part question. How important is mindset to you? And what are the things that you do daily to ensure you maintain both a positive and a supportive mindset?
Well, I'd say this is one of my absolute favorite topics to talk about. So you are going to get a lot of my opinions on it because I think mindset can absolutely make or break your day. It's that important. It can make and break how you go about your day, how you go about the things you're trying to accomplish, how you communicate with people, how you communicate with your family, how you communicate with people you work with. It plays a part in everything. So first of all, the things I do in the morning, I want to start there. It makes such a difference in my day. And so I love to journal, and we have talked about this on pretty much every podcast. I will go back to it again. Journal, journal, journal. And I'm just going to dive into that for a moment too, because maybe you haven't heard this in some of our other episodes, but journaling doesn't have to be a science to it. There is no right or wrong. Literally just start writing. I don't know what to write. 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 And it will come out of you what you need to get out on paper. And sometimes it's just a whole lot of complaining. I wake up actually, even though a lot of people tell me I'm a very happy person, I actually wake up quite angsty is a good word, where I
I
need
was
to
going to say cranky.
cranky. It was a lot worse when I used to drink coffee too, actually. Now my fizz and tea is a lot better. I'm not so angsty, but still, it's a lot of stuff I just need to get out on paper, and I always feel 100% better after. And sometimes it's a whole lot of complaining, and I'm not like profound in my journals. I've read, like, it was like Matthew McConaughey's book. He gives clips of his journals throughout the years. I've thrown mine away as soon as I write them, because when they're done, because the book, I just put a book, throw it away. Because mine, I know it's just like a lot of the same thoughts that I'm thinking or stuff I'm stressing about that I need to get out on paper, and getting the white noise out of my head. I had a professor once call it that, and I love that explanation. So, but I remember his book, and he was like a lot of profound thoughts. Actually, he actually has a lot of cool things in his book in that way, that I was like, wow, my journaling is not like that at all. So, but again, it's not comparing. It's just whatever. Get it out on paper. But I usually can work through things too when I'm trying to figure out a direction I want to go, an answer I'm looking for. It comes out. Sometimes it takes days, sometimes it takes weeks, sometimes it takes 1 minute to figure it out. So journaling just gets the stuff out of your head. And it's funny, my sister-in-law recently, we were up visiting, and she showed me one of her journals, and she just leaves it out on the living room table, and a lot of us are all like, oh my gosh, I don't want anybody to read my thoughts. And what I found was brilliant was that she doesn't write words. She literally scribbles, but in her head she's writing what she wants to write, but it's literally just like a squiggle line across the page. So she's the actual act of writing, even though it's squiggles, and it's not legible to anyone else. It just looks like characters and lines all across the page. So I just thought that was cool, for people who are afraid to write things, their innermost thoughts onto paper, that nobody has to read it. So I just wanted to pass that along. So journaling, a huge thing, and then reading. some kind of book that has to do with mindset or growth, or sometimes I like to read biographies of really successful people and hear their journeys. I find that really inspiring. And it doesn't have to be much. It can be start if you're not a reader, you'll make yourself a reader by just opening a book and starting with 2 pages. Start with 2 pages. Start with 1 page. Start, and then the next day go to two. But I try to do 10 pages, and that usually takes me. I give myself 30 minutes. Sometimes it's give or take on that. So those are the two most important things. I also like to, if I can, I have to schedule it, fitting in the time for meditation and doing my workout in the morning, which I have never been that type of person to work out in the morning, but I have done it in the more this past year actually. And I found that it does help a lot to just get my workout out in the morning and then it's done. So these are things that I find helpful, but the deal breaker things for me are journaling and reading. However, I wanted to tag on to that recently I have not been doing my reading. I've been journaling. Even that's been sporadic. It's just been, no excuse, just life, kids and traveling. And I just couldn't even find my journal. And sometimes I just write on loose papers if I can find them and throw them away. But it hasn't been consistent. And I 100% notice a difference. 100% notice a difference in my day, in how I tackle the day, in how productive I am, in how I communicate. I'm more snappy when I'm not getting with my kids, when I'm not getting that stuff out in the morning. And so that's why I can share that it makes a difference because I've done both. I've done it really consistently and I've done it inconsistently, and especially being in an inconsistent spot and seeing the difference that it makes in my mindset. Like those are things that can 100% make a difference in your day. So, Jen, I would love to hear your thoughts on these things as well.
So I think there's a lot of things that you mentioned that I want to comment on. And there's so many things that you can go into around mindset. And I love that you shared your routine and then when you change that routine, how it affects you. So I think the biggest thing around mindset for all of us is how do we remove the white noise, right? So many of us, I think, I've said this before, but I air quote, they say we have about 60,000 thoughts a day. And I call BS on that because I'm pretty confident I have about a million thoughts a day. Some of them are useful, most of them are not. Some of them are literally like a squirrel, like, oops, squirrel, see something shiny. But there's also a lot of detrimental thoughts that we have. And most people, it's 80% of those 60,000 thoughts are negative, right? So if you think about that, that's a whole lot of negativity entering your brain. So how can you protect your brain and not even just protect it, but how can you encourage it to thrive? How can you set your brain up to set you up for success? So what you mentioned was quieting the white noise and the things that you can do about that. And I think the other part is it when you decide to journal or to make time to read, people are like, oh, self-help books. Yeah, well, shut up. Are you trying to get better? Are you trying to be a better version of yourself? These are personal development books. And if you look up the definition of development, it means you're developing into something else, which means you're developing into a better person. So I think it's very difficult for people to become vulnerable. Like you said, I think it's funny that your sister-in-law just scribbles. I actually scribble a lot more than I write things. And a lot of times that's just to occupy my brain or to quiet the noise that's going on in there. But you do have to have a little bit of vulnerability to put the thoughts that are in your head, the things that no one gets to see unless you decide that they get to see them down on paper. I thought it was super interesting that you said like you throw them away. I was like, really? Where I'm, like, such a masochist, I would keep them just so I could go back and be like, "Ugh, what was I thinking then? Ah." Or on the other side, there's a part where, "Oh, I wanna get better," and go, "Oh, wow, those were the things that were holding me back before, and I haven't even had one of those thoughts in months or years," or whatever it is. So, I find that I've even, I've gotten the burn after reading journal. And it's a great idea, right? Or if you did find that a journal was more negative than anything, burn that shit, right? That might make you feel a little bit better. You literally are releasing those thoughts that have been holding you
Actually,
back
pretty
from things,
liberating to let
right?
go of
Really
all that
liberating.
if it
And
is
I
a
think
lot of negativity, like you're saying.
yeah, and I think we've talked about this before, but a lot of these negative thoughts, they come from sometimes things we can't pinpoint. Sometimes they are, they've come from stories in our past or things that people have told us that we are, things that we believe about ourselves. And we have to actually rewrite the narrative. We have to create these new neural pathways in our head. And if you've ever, now I'm not going to remember the name of it, but they talk about soundtracks, the book Soundtracks. Is that by Jon Acuff? I think it's Soundtracks by Jon Acuff. And it's not necessarily deleting these thoughts. That's a little not I hate the word realistic, but it's a little unrealistic to say, you know what, I'm just going to get rid of these thoughts altogether. But what you can do is you can turn the volume down on those thoughts and you can make them a lot quieter. And the things that are louder are the things that are more positive. They're the things that you want to believe about yourself. So even when you are journaling or you decide to journal like Christy, spend time writing the things you want to be saying to yourself, not the things that you are currently saying to yourself because they're not benefiting you in any way. So saying, I want to be the person that wants to get up in the morning. I'm going to be a morning person. I love the morning. There's sunshine and coffee and fizz and whatever it is that's going to get you excited to be that kind of person that you want to be. And then the other part of, you said, I haven't been a person that likes to work out in the morning. That hasn't been me. But you decided to change that narrative and you decided to work out in the morning. And guess what happens? There's science behind it, guys. Endorphins are released when you work out. So if you're feeling a little blue, yes, Christy's down in Florida. We're up here in New England where it's a lot colder and you might feel the blues a little earlier in the winter. Then maybe it's time to go, you know what? I need to find a way to release endorphins. Maybe it's a typical workout. Maybe it's a walk outside in the sun because that vitamin D will do you good. Or, maybe it's a dance party. Finding the things that help you feel better are the things you have to include. And one of the things that I do, similar to Christy, is I do read personal development. The one I'm rereading right now is You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's the second or third time I'm reading it. And it's these books that they encourage you to do the things that you've always wanted to do and you haven't had the belief in yourself to do them. And the other thing is I actually have to plan my books. Just like we've talked about calendars a lot of times or planning to fail, failing to plan. I have booked out, literally booked out, the next 5 books that I will be reading. Why? Because I have found in the past that if I don't choose the next book I'm gonna read, too much time goes by that I'm not reading in the morning, and I don't feel good. I don't feel like I'm ready for the day. I don't feel in alignment with my goals. I don't feel in alignment with what I want to accomplish during that day, and all of a sudden, I woke up at 7 in the morning, and now it's 7 o'clock at night, and I don't feel like I've gotten anything done on my checklist. So that's really one of the tips I have is plan even out the books that you're going to read. If you're not, get involved with a book club, right? I know there's book clubs out there, or just even post, hey, what's everyone's favorite book? Or if you have a mentor, ask your mentor what their favorite book is. Those are a lot of places that I have found, or even go to your local library. Believe me, they have a personal development section, and you can
Put
just
a
go one
poll
by
out on
one.
social media and ask people what they're reading. They love to talk about what they're reading. Everybody will
Yes,
always give,
people
you know.
people love to give their opinion on what they like the best. So I love all the things that you talked about, and thank you for asking me my opinion. I think I could talk about mindset all the time. So can I ask you on the flip side? Yes, getting away from your daily habits throws you off track. But what are some of the things in the past that have kind of weaseled their way in there that you've either corrected or to look out for? What are the things that really knock you off track with mindset?
Oh, like anybody, I mean, laziness. I want to sleep later. I want to, end my night binge watching something with my husband, like it's just we can get into those comfort patterns too where we're not growing as much and sometimes we can just let our excuses of life's just happening as I have been saying and and it ends up snowballing and it's not just a day, a couple days, now it's a week, now it's a month, now it's been a couple months, now it's been 6 months, half a year, like this is just general thoughts of like what we do when these are the things that creep in. So I'm finding that I have to schedule even like of course we want to watch shows with our spouses and have that downtime. Like I enjoy that as a disconnect from things and I find that to be very much to wind down. So but it's like, okay, let's choose a show and let's watch it, and let's not watch like 4 episodes right now. And then we're going to bed too late and not getting up early and doing the things that we want to do to further ourselves, you know? So, like anybody, I think it's those things that can sneak in, and they do creep in ever so slightly. And the food I'm eating, I can get really into comfort eating and ease of eating, and going for the, you know, pizza in the freezer and getting those things because it's easier and I don't have to think about it. But you know what? It's not that much more effort to put into a healthier meal. It's just planning. I have to plan for it. So once I
Yeah.
plan it, I find that starting on a Monday is helpful for me, because then I'm like, okay, I can do today. Let's do today, or let's do this first meal. What am I making? Okay, we're all getting shakes for breakfast. That is healthy, and that is start there, because the food I eat also 100% makes a difference in my mindset. I should absolutely throw that in there, because when I am off my game with food, and it's not like I'm 100% perfect all the time, because I don't think anybody is. Maybe when I'm doing the 30 days, I do our 30-day program. I have managed to make it all the way through 30 days, really like on track. But there have been months that I've done that too, because I've done it so many times that I let myself have my, you know, leeway here and there. But I notice when I am on track with eating a lot healthier and I'm cutting out processed foods and excess sugars, not drinking alcohol, not that I drink much, but that's a depressant, so it can take me down. But when I'm feeding my body healthier foods, my mindset and my energy is so different. And as soon as I get on track for like even 3 days, I'm like, wow, I was in a cloud. Holy moly. And people say, what is like mental clarity? I don't really understand what that is. But once you experience it, of just, you know, cutting out gluten and dairy are big things for us. Which seems harder than it is. It's really not, once you just are purposeful in your shopping and recipes. It's really not that hard. And then when you do it for 3 days, man, it is a world of difference in clarity for sure. And that can help. And then you're, oh, I want to get up in the morning. I want to get back into like, so it's this cycle, like it's all connected.
Yeah, I actually love that you brought up really gut health, right? How much of what we're putting in our gut does end up I wasn't even thinking of going down this path when we talked about this conversation, but how much of what we're putting in our bodies, it genuinely affects our brain. It has a direct connection. And I think a lot of us don't remember that we have two brains in our body. There's one in our head and one in our stomach. And if the stomach is off course, however you want to say it, so is the brain, right? You have the fatigue, you have the brain fog, like, and especially if you're a mom, sorry, dads, but if you're a mom, brain fog, baby fog, I feel like toddler fog, all those things, grown child fog, like all of those things are real. And when you're not setting yourself up for success, and like Christy said, this is not about being perfect. There's definitely progress, not perfection. But if you're not setting yourself up at least 80% of the time to be fueling your body, everything else is going to be affected. So if you're a person that you're on track to achieve big goals, right? A lot of times what's the first thing that we put by the wayside? It's what we're eating, right? It's easier to, grab fast food because you have a deadline or you have a sales call or whatever it is. I really want to encourage you to try and plan at least 1 to 2 meals where you're really supporting your body because you're gonna be better, you're gonna feel better, and when you feel better, you do better. I believe in that truly, and I'm so glad that you brought it up because I wasn't even thinking it, and I'm like, "Mindset, yes, absolutely," right? We have to talk about what we're eating when we're talking about mindset because it's not just what we're eating in our body, it's what we're feeding our mind. It's what we're listening to, it's what we're reading, it's what we're watching, and I think one of the things that I was thinking of when you're like, I would so much rather just sit and watch 4 episodes of a TV show with my husband, which just recently my husband and I did go down a total wormhole. We turned on Mayor of Easttown, and we may or may not have started and finished an entire season in one night, staying up till 3 a.m. Maybe it happened. I don't know. So again, I'm not perfect at this. But what I do like to do is if I get my non-negotiables, which are my non-negotiables are reading, they're taking 5 minutes to journal, they're reaching out to clients, right? Whatever my non-negotiables are for the day, well, then you know what? Guilt-free I get to watch a show with my husband. Guilt-free, I get to play a game with my son. Like, we forget if we stop keeping the promises to ourselves, we're not going to believe in ourselves. And it's much easier to do the other things than it is to do your non negotiables. However, treat yourself. When you accomplish something, reward yourself. That's okay too, because typically your non negotiables don't take all day. So if you're spending more time thinking about your non negotiables than just doing them, especially the ones around your mindset, guess what? All the negative thoughts that you had before, now there's new ones in there. I should have done this. I should have done that. I can't believe I didn't do that. I'm never going to accomplish. Now there's all you're like putting new lanes of traffic in your brain, and it's becoming a big old traffic jam up there because you just didn't keep your promise to yourself. You didn't support yourself. You didn't support your goals, your mindset. And now you feel like shit, right? You feel like you're not deserving.
Yes, and it's exhausting. It's exhausting to put all that energy into figuring out where you did or didn't show up, and that takes a lot of energy, and it takes your energy downhill. So back to the journaling, something you can do to help get your energy up, your mindset up, is the word gratitude gets thrown around, I think, a little too much, but in weird ways, the way it comes out on social media and stuff. But it's a real thing, and so just choose 3 or 5 things. Start with 3 and write down 3 things that you are grateful for in this moment. And sometimes it's like the most minute thing. I am grateful for this coffee. I am grateful for this tea right now. It's nice and warm, and I am sitting by myself and enjoying it, whatever that might be. But I tend to sometimes go for the big things too. Like, I'm grateful that all my family is healthy right now.
I
That's
was
a
just gonna
huge
say
thing.
that for you, right? You're like, "I'm grateful that no one in the house has a fever this week," right?
Yes.
Yeah!
And
And
so those
sometimes those are the
things,
things.
again, scientifically, it's going to change the chemistry. The cells in your body are going to shift when you start practicing gratitude, because there's no room for the negativity when you're doing that. So it's the best, quickest way to get yourself into a better mindset, because you're literally only thinking about things you love in your life. And it could be
Mhm.
something small, it could be something huge. And then that might just keep your list going. Your whole journaling might just be things that you're like, oh, wow, yeah, I'm grateful for my husband's job is a bomb. Like, I'm loving my business right now. This is great. It is a sunny day out right now. Like, whatever it is, like, you just start thinking of all the other things. So there's just so many places that you can start. If you're
Mhm.
like, it seems too big to tackle, it's really not. Choose one thing today.
Yeah. And I feel like the other things that we haven't yet mentioned that are usually on my protecting my mindset list, and I don't know if you practice these things, Chrissy, but the top one with social media. Social media, Chrissy and I both agree it can be an amazing tool. It can really provide a lot of things. However, it can also be a time suck and it can mess your mind up. So guess what? It's okay, even if they're friends and family, if they don't make you feel good, and I don't mean like, let me articulate this the way that I want to articulate this. When you see the things that they're doing and you're comparing, you're not as far along on your journey. They have the things that you want. There's difference of inspiration and being inspired by people on social media, and then there's just being made to feel bad. Feel bad about yourself, right? Because again, let's be reminded, nothing on social media is 100% true. And that's the truth. The only truth about social media is that there's nothing that is 100% true. So if you need to take the time to unfollow the people that don't make you feel great, or you're spending way too much time comparing to them, or you're doubting yourself on whether you should start a new project because that person did it better, or they're going to think I'm copying them. Like, there's so many different alleys you can go down when you're talking about social media. It's okay to press the mute button. It's okay to unfollow them. There are people that are pretty close in my life that I mute them. I have to for my own mindset. And it has nothing to do with them. That's on me and that's my story and I have to work through that, but I also don't have to see it every day. And that's super important. And I think the other thing is what you're listening to. I will say one of the most successful times in my life, I controlled everything I listened to when driving. At that time in my life, I was driving about 10 hours a week. So if you are one of those people, you have a long commute or you're spending a lot of time in the car, I mean, absolutely jam out, have a dance party. However, talk radio, typically not super positive. Spend time, find people that are doing the things that you want to do, that have accomplished the things that you want. A couple of great podcasts. I love listening to Ed Mylett. He will fire me up. Chrissy, in the past, I've listened to Rachel Hollis. I love listening to Mel Robbins. I can't
I
forget
was
about
just gonna
her.
say Mel Robbins. There we go. I was like,
I
she's
can't
right
forget
on the
Mel
tip of my
Robbins.
brain.
Right? So, and you'll find these people as you start looking, it's those things. Your brain works in it's not a super mysterious way, but when you start thinking about things, there's a reason when you think about a Mercedes and you really want a specific Mercedes, that when you're driving down the road, all you see is Mercedes. Well, use your brain power. If you want to look for powerful podcasts, if you want to look for book clubs, if you want to look for the books you want to do, if you just want to look for positive people, if you start thinking about them, they're going to start showing up in your life. And I have to say, I am a much more positive person than I was 5 years ago. And my mission is to be an even more positive, supportive person 5 years from now. And that doesn't just mean for other people, but for myself, because you're the number one person to work on, right? You can't control what other people do, and sometimes you can't control your mind, but you can work on supporting it. And I think that's really important.
And you're the one you spend the most time with. So you want to be in good company.
Right?
So
I talk to myself all day long.
yeah,
All day
I'm
long.
listening to myself. I'm talking to myself all day. So,
I love that, I love that. So, Chrissy, is there anything else you wanna leave our listeners with around mindset?
no, just kind of to recap, thinking of the things that you can do. You can journal, you can read books. Jen was just talking about podcasts. We can absolutely have that conversation going, and give more ideas. I was thinking of some more as you're speaking, and it's like entrepreneurial ones. Just thinking of find something that you're interested in and go find a podcast on that thing. It can be really rewarding in that sense. Exercising, meditation, these are different things that we're talking about, and that start in how you're eating. 100% how you're eating. So these are things, choose one, start with one, and then you build from there. And you're going to start to see a difference, a shift in your mindset, in your energy, in your day, and in turn in your life.
Absolutely. Thank you again for listening. This is another episode of Happy, Healthy, and Skeptical. You can find us on Instagram at Happy, Healthy, Skeptical.